welcome back to Casuals Corner, and today I'm going to be having a look at a name that you can never get rid of in the headlines. Conor McGregor, who does he fight next, and do we see the Nate Diaz trilogy? Now before I jump into the video, please do me a favour and go and drop a like and a subscribe and hit that bell icon as well so you can stay up to date and don't miss any of the free flowing content that I pump out. It does me a really big favour in growing the channel, and it'll be very much appreciated if you do enjoy the content. But anyway, jumping back into it. So if you haven't seen recently, Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor have been going at it on Twitter, as per usual. Not even just them two, but them two in general, about pretty much anyone. Now, the one thing which jumps to mind when we sort of have a think about Conor McGregor and who he's fighting next is he's recently said that he's got 2 fights on his contract. So it's even more so of a topic of conversation at the moment, because it's going to be really interesting to see how he plays those next 2 fights, and it's also going to be interesting to see his intentions with those, because who he fights and when is going to say a lot about where he wants to go towards the end of the career. Does he just want to make the biggest fights possible, or does he really want to sort of get back in that title picture? Because I genuinely think he would love to win the title at lightweight again. But this is where it's so interesting. Coming back obviously from a long layoff now, the reason why Nate Diaz makes a lot of sense, not only for that trilogy match, not only for the fact that they're 2 of the biggest stars in the sport, but for the fact that Nate Diaz calls his own shots pretty much when it comes to his fights. So he's more than happy to have a longer layoff, wait for Conor McGregor to come back, and then to fight. The difficulty with that being that Conor McGregor had a compound fracture 60 days ago, and he's already back squatting weights, which is very, very impressive. But he hasn't beaten anyone in a very long time, whether that's boxing or mixed martial arts. He hasn't won a fight in a very long time, and he's also fought Nate Diaz twice and hasn't put him out either of those times. So if history is anything to tell us, it's probably going to go the full 5 rounds if they fight, if it makes it that far for Conor McGregor, because we've seen before that he hasn't been able to knock Nate Diaz out, and we know how durable he is. So Conor McGregor really would have to prepare for a 5-round war for that fight. Now, is that the smartest thing to do, coming back after quite a bad injury, after having quite a long time without a victory, a weight class up against a very, very durable person? I mean, for the pay-per-views and for the fight and for the neutrals, it'd be amazing. Is it the smartest move for Conor McGregor? I'm not so sure, but he needs that win. He really needs that win, and I don't think that he could do it from a lesser named opponent. I don't think he could go in the lightweight division and get a tune-up fight. 2 fights on his contract, it sort of is going to have to be a name, and he's a victim of his own success in that. So like I was saying, the interesting thing about McGregor, he's never more than 1 fight away from a title. Now if he comes back and beats Nate Diaz, which is a very, very good possibility still, I'm not writing him off to beat him at all, just that is going to be a difficult fight. But if he comes back and beats him, then there's a lot of ifs and buts and maybes in this conversation, but we're going to flow with it. Purely hypothetical. If Dustin Poirier is to beat Charlie Olives, then we instantly have that title fight, and arguably one of the biggest fights in history. I mean, pretty much anything Conor McGregor does at this point is usually the biggest fight in history, but even more so with that Poirier history. Very, very interesting prospect. And then even if we want to have a bit of a different conversation, the chance for Conor McGregor to be a free weight champion still very much on the cards. It's not highly likely, but there is definitely still a percentage chance for him to get that. Like I said, never more than 1 fight away from a title, and especially with that welterweights, again, a lot of ifs, buts and maybes. But if Colby is to beat Usman and Masvidal is to get that title shot, because when we have the conversation of Diaz and McGregor, the next name that we have to enter in that is Jorge Masvidal. In terms of name value within the UFC, they really are the 3 biggest sort of needle movers, if you like. Jorge Masvidal more than likely gets that shot with Colby. There's a lot of narrative there. That's a massive fight, and that's a fight that Colby will feel very favourable that he can win. So it's sort of a win-win on all fronts there. If Masvidal is to win there, then that opens up the lane for Conor McGregor to step in for a title at welterweight to fight Jorge Masvidal, again, probably for the biggest event that we'll ever likely to see in the UFC. 3-time free weight division champion, against Jorge Masvidal, one of the biggest names in the UFC, against Conor McGregor, one of the biggest names in the UFC, the pay-per-view numbers would be absolutely astronomical, and I'm sure that they could paint a very, very good narrative behind that as well. So that'll be very, very interesting to see. I'm sure on the run-up to his next fight, we're going to see a ton of Twitter activity, a ton of Instagram activity, a ton of deleted tweets, and a lot of shit talking from Nate Diaz, which I'm always here for. But we don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be very interesting to see what does go down next. As always, you know the drill. If you enjoyed the content, please drop the like, the subscribe, and the little bell icon, like I said, so you don't miss out on any of the content. Please follow us on TikTok and Instagram as well for daily content, because we really do churn it out over on those platforms. So if you follow those people that post once a week or even once a day, we're not on that level. We are churning it out for you. And as well, if you enjoyed the YouTube content, short or long, we have all the audio over on our Apple Podcast and our Spotify as well, so you know how to find us at Casuals Corner, so you have our dulcet tones at any given time of the day, whether you're on the go or you're watching YouTube. Happy days. As always, take care. Peace.